Wow. Okay. You weren't kidding when you said you were diving deep into music therapy. This is a serious stack of stuff you sent over. Articles, guides. I even see some handwritten notes in here. Especially this article, Beyond the Notes. The unexpected power of music definitely caught my eye.
It's a fascinating field. It really goes
Yeah.
deeper than a lot of people realize. And
Hmm.
seems like you're really into the whole journey, too. The training, the actual practice, like everything.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And you know what really stood out to me? It was this note you wrote about finding your niche in music therapy. We've even got kind of a roadmap here, highlighting all the cool stuff you found. So let's see where this journey takes us. First off, I noticed this music therapy career framework. What's the story behind that?
That's a great place to start. The Music Therapy Career Framework was developed by the American Music Therapy Association, really to be a guide for people who want to get into the field. And it really stresses that it's not just about being musically talented. It actually lays out 4 pillars for building a successful career, and musical proficiency is just one of them.
Wait a second. There's more to it than just being like a musical prodigy. You've got me hooked. Tell me more about these other pillars. What else do you need to be a successful music therapist?
Well, the second pillar is clinical knowledge. And this is super important. It's all about understanding the psychology behind how therapy works, the science of how music affects the brain, and the different techniques that are used in practice. Have you ever heard of something called rhythmic entrainment?
Rhythmic what now? That sounds kind of intense.
It's a really cool concept, actually. Basically, it's how our bodies naturally sync up to rhythms. Think about when your foot starts tapping along to a catchy beat. You can't help it. Well, in music therapy, we can actually use that principle to help regulate things like heart rate breathing, even brainwave activity. It could be a really powerful tool for things like managing anxiety or even helping someone relax.
Wow. So it's more than just playing calming music. There's some serious science behind it. Okay, so we've got the musical talent, we've got the clinical knowledge. What's the third pillar all about?
So the third one is therapeutic skills. And this one focuses on the human connection. It's about building a strong rapport with clients, conducting assessments to really understand what they need, and then creating treatment plans that are individualized just for them. This is where the art of therapy really shines.
So you're not just a musician, you're therapist first and foremost, just using music as your main tool to connect with people and help them heal. I can see how that goes way beyond just playing the right notes.
Exactly. It's about using music to help people communicate better, express their emotions, and even develop cognitively. And that leads us to the fourth pillar, which is professional development. This one's about your commitment to lifelong learning in the field, staying up to date on research, pursuing different specializations. It's about making sure you're always growing and evolving as a therapist.
Okay, I'm starting to see why this framework is so important. It's like a holistic way to look at the whole profession. It acknowledges that a music therapist is so much more than just a musician. But let's get practical for a minute. Let's say someone's totally into this career path. Where does the actual training begin?
Well, the most common path starts with a bachelor's degree in music therapy. These programs are designed to give you solid music training, but also a lot of coursework in things like psychology, therapy techniques, and even research methods.
So it's like a specialized music degree, but with a heavy focus on therapy.
Hmm.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, I saw in your notes that you mentioned some alternative paths for becoming a music therapist. So, what if someone already has a degree in, say, psychology, but they're now super interested in music therapy? Can they still make the leap?
Absolutely. There are these things called equivalency programs that are designed for people who have related degrees but want to switch to music therapy. They basically bridge the gap by giving you the extra music courses and clinical training so you can meet the same standards as someone with a music therapy degree.
So, no matter where you're starting from, there's a way to get there. That's pretty cool. But I imagine even with a degree, hands on experience is super important. You mentioned clinical training in your notes. I'm curious to hear more about that. What does it actually involve?
Clinical training is where you really start putting all the theory into practice. Usually starts with practicum experiences during your undergrad, where you get supervised hours working with different types of clients.
So you're actually applying what you're learning, working with real people, but you've got experienced therapists guiding you along the way. That sounds super valuable.
Oh, it is.
Huh.
And then comes the big one, the internship. This is where you have to complete 1,200 hours. It's a big commitment, but it gives you a chance to get exposure to all sorts of client populations and different therapeutic approaches.
Wow, 1,200 hours. That's not just dipping your toes in the water. That's like diving head first. But why is it so important to have experience in all these different settings?
That's a really good question. It's all about seeing how broad this field really is. You might be working with kids with autism in one setting, and then adults with dementia in another. Each one requires a different skill set and approach. This broad exposure helps you figure out what you're truly passionate about, what your strengths are, and ultimately, it guides you toward finding your own niche.
Makes sense. So you're not just learning the basics, you're getting to explore the whole landscape of music therapy and figuring where you fit in. Okay, so you've got your degree, you've done your 1,200 hours. What's next on this music therapy adventure? Is there like a final boss to battle?
Well, there's one more crucial step before you can officially call yourself a music therapist, the board certification exam.
Oh, here it comes, the final challenge.
Yeah, it's definitely a big one. This exam really tests your knowledge on everything from music theory to therapeutic techniques, ethics, professional conduct, the whole 9 yards. You have to prove that you're ready to provide safe and effective therapy.
No pressure, right? But I bet passing that exam feels amazing.
It's a huge accomplishment. It shows that you've met the highest standards in the profession, but there's one more piece to the puzzle before you can actually practice. You also need to get state licensing.
Ah, yes. The legal stuff. So it's not just a national certification. You have to check the specific requirements for your state, too.
Exactly. Requirements can vary quite a bit from state to state, so it's super important to do your research. Some states might have extra exams or specific training hours, even supervision requirements before they give you a license.
Wow. So even after all that hard work, there's still some hoops to jump through. But I have to ask, once you've done all that, you're certified, licensed, ready to rock and roll, what's next? What does the actual career trajectory look like? Is it just one straight path? Or are there different ways to grow and evolve as a music therapist?
That's where the Career Advancement Protocol comes in. It's outlined in one of the articles you sent. It shows how music therapists can keep learning and growing throughout their careers.
Ooh, I love a good protocol. Break it down for me. What are the different stages of this career path?
Well, it starts with entry level. That's when you're fresh out of school, you're building up your clinical experience, usually working under supervision. You're really solidifying your foundation, expanding your network. Kind of like you mentioned in your notes about finding mentors.
Right. So you're not just going solo right away. It's more about finding your footing, learning from the people who've already been there. Makes sense. So what happens after you've got some experience under your belt?
Then you move into mid-career. This is where you can really start exploring those specializations you were talking about. You might pursue some advanced training, take on leadership roles, or even dive into research.
So it's about going beyond those basics and becoming more of a specialist. You mentioned in your notes about working with kids with autism. Is that something that you're personally drawn to?
Absolutely. Working with kids has always been a passion of mine, and using music to help them connect and communicate. It's incredibly inspiring. It actually reminds me of that article you sent, Music as a Bridge, Reaching Children with Autism. It talked about how music can unlock these pathways of communication that traditional therapies sometimes miss.
Yeah, that one really stuck with me too. It's amazing how music can reach these kids in such a unique way.
It really is. And it shows how music therapy can be tailored to fit all sorts of needs and populations. Then as you progress even further, you reach the advanced practice level. This is where you might be developing new programs, supervising other therapists, teaching or contributing to research. You're really becoming a leader in the field, helping to shape the future of music therapy.
Okay, I'm picturing you at a conference now, presenting your groundbreaking research, inspiring a whole new generation of music therapists. Talk about making a real impact.
It's definitely a rewarding stage of the career. And speaking of applying these skills, that brings up a question I saw in your notes. Where do music therapists actually work? It's a surprisingly diverse field.
Yeah, that's something I was really curious about. I know hospitals are an obvious one, but what other settings are out there?
Well, let's start with hospitals since you mentioned them. Music therapists work in all kinds of hospital settings, from general medical floors to specialized units like oncology, pediatrics, palliative care.
I can see how music could be so helpful in those situations, especially for patients dealing with pain or anxiety, or even just the emotional toll of a serious illness. You actually underlined a passage in one of the articles about how music can actually reduce the need for pain medication. That just blew me away.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, and there's a lot of research to back it up. Music therapy has been shown to reduce pain perception, lower anxiety levels, even improve people's moods in hospital settings. But beyond that, music therapists also work in places like rehabilitation centers, helping patients regain motor skills and cognitive function after a stroke or injury.
That's so cool. I imagine music could be really motivating for patients, especially during those tough rehab sessions. So, are there any other settings where music therapy is used?
Definitely. Mental health facilities are another common one. Music therapists use their skills to help clients cope with things like depression, anxiety, trauma, all sorts of mental health challenges.
That makes a lot of sense. I was reading about how music can tap into those deep emotions
Mm.
and help people process difficult experiences in a really safe and therapeutic environment. I even saw a note you made about how music therapy can be used in group settings too, to like foster social connection and communication. Is that right?
Yes, you're exactly right. Music therapy groups can be incredibly powerful. It's like creating a space where people can connect, support each other, and express themselves through music. It can be especially helpful for people who struggle with verbal communication or social interaction.
So it's not just about one-on-one therapy. It's about creating a sense of community and belonging through music. I love that. Now, what about kids? I know you're particularly interested in working with children. Does music therapy have a place in schools?
Absolutely. Music therapists work in educational settings all the time, supporting students with special needs, addressing developmental delays, and promoting social emotional learning. In your notes, you specifically mentioned a study about how music therapy can help improve communication skills in children with autism.
Oh, yeah. That study was really fascinating. It talked about how music therapy can help these kids learn to express themselves better, engage with others, and even regulate their emotions. It's like music provides this bridge to connect with them in a way that other therapies sometimes can't.
Exactly. It really highlights the power of music to go beyond those traditional communication barriers. And music therapists also work with kids who have learning disabilities, behavioral challenges, or emotional difficulties.
Wow. The impact that music therapy has on kids is amazing. It's really about meeting them where they're at and using music to help them thrive. Now, I have to ask about something that's been on my mind. What about private practice? Is that a common path for music therapists?
It is. A lot of music therapists choose to build their own practices, offering personalized services to individuals, groups, even organizations. It gives you a lot of flexibility and autonomy. And you
Yeah.
can really focus on your specific area of expertise.
Right, like you said, finding your niche. You could specialize in working with kids with autism, adults with dementia, even corporate wellness programs. It's really about creating your own path within the field.
Exactly. And that entrepreneurial spirit is something we see a lot in music therapists. Now, I know the other question you had was about salary expectations. It's a practical thing to consider, of course.
Of course. Got to be realistic, right? So spill the tea. What kind of salary can a music therapist expect to earn?
But like most careers, it really depends on a few factors. Geographic location is a big one, as is your experience level specialization and the type of setting you work in. Big city versus rural area, years of experience, working for a hospital versus private practice, all those things come into play.
Okay, so there's no magic number, but there's definitely room for growth and variation based on your choices and circumstances. But let's shift gears for a minute and talk to the listener who's just starting to think about music therapy as a career. What advice would you give them? Where should they begin this journey?
Well, one of the most important things is to start early. In your notes, you highlighted a quote from a music therapist
Mm.
who said, "The seeds of a music therapy career are often planted in childhood."
Ah, I love that. So, what are some practical steps someone can take to nurture those seeds and see if this path is really right for them?
While developing your music skills is essential, take lessons on your primary instrument. Explore piano or guitar. Dabble in vocals and percussion. The stronger your musical foundation, the better prepared you'll be.
So, if you're daydreaming about this career, you should be actively practicing those musical chops right now. What else can they do at this early stage?
Academic preparation is really key too. Focus on those music and science courses in high school. Biology, psychology, even physics can be surprisingly relevant to understanding sound and music. It's all connected.
Okay, so it's not just about practicing your scales, it's about building a solid foundation in those core subjects. But what about getting some actual experience in the field? Is that valuable at this point?
Definitely. Try to shadow a music therapist,
Yeah.
volunteer at a hospital or care facility, maybe even attend a music therapy conference. These experiences will give you some amazing insights and help you decide if this path is truly for you.
So don't just read about it, get out there and experience it firsthand. Love that advice. What about choosing a music therapy program? Any tips on that front?
The most important thing is to make sure the program is accredited by the American Music Therapy Association. That ensures that it meets the highest standards of quality.
Got it. Accreditation, the gold standard. What else should you look for?
Look at the faculty's expertise, the variety of clinical opportunities they offer, the emphasis on research, and the overall support they provide to students. A good program will help you grow as both a musician and therapist.
So it's not just about the name of the school, it's about really doing your research, finding the program that's the right fit for you. Excellent advice. Now let's talk about something that can be a little daunting. The financial side of things. Education, training, certifications, it all adds up. Any tips for navigating the cost of becoming a music therapist?
You're right, it is a significant investment. Start planning early. Explore scholarships and financial aid options. And don't be afraid to get creative with fundraising. Remember, you're investing in a future. That could bring you joy and fulfillment, as well as financial stability.
So be proactive, be resourceful, and remind yourself that this investment is ultimately about aligning your passion with your purpose.
Okay, let's fast forward a bit. You've graduated, you're certified and licensed, you've landed your dream job. But the learning doesn't stop there, right? How does a music therapist stay sharp and continue to grow throughout their career?
That's where those professional success strategies you marked come in. They were in one of the articles you sent. Networking conferences, continuing education, those are all crucial for staying current and inspired.
Okay, let's break those down. What's the value of networking for music therapists?
It's all about connecting with your colleagues, sharing knowledge, learning from each other's experiences, attending conferences, and joining professional organizations like the American Music Therapy Association. That can open doors to a whole supportive community.
So it's not just about exchanging business cards, it's about building a real network of support and inspiration. Make sense?
What about conferences? Why are those so valuable?
Conferences are like a concentrated dose of professional development. You get to hear from renowned speakers, attend workshops on all sorts of specialized topics, and discover the latest cutting-edge research. Plus, it's a fantastic opportunity to network, meet other music therapists from all over the world.
So it's like a recharge for the soul, a chance to expand your horizons. I can see how that would be energizing. Now let's talk about continuing education. Is that something you have to do, or is it more of a choice?
It's actually both. To maintain your board certification, you have to complete a certain number of continuing education credits every year.
Okay, so there's a structured element to it, but I imagine it's more than just checking boxes. It's about staying curious and passionate about the field, right?
Exactly. Continuing education can take so many forms, from workshops and online courses to specialized certifications, even pursuing an advanced degree. You can really tailor your learning to your own interests and career goals.
I love that. It keeps things fresh and exciting, allows you to keep growing and evolving as a therapist. Now let's look ahead to the future of music therapy. What are some of the emerging trends that have you excited? Are we talking robot musicians, virtual reality concerts?
Well, we might not have robots replacing music therapists just yet, but technology is definitely changing the field in some really exciting ways. One of the biggest trends right now is the rise of telehealth.
Telehealth. You mean like music therapy delivered online? How does that even work?
It's becoming more and more popular,
Yeah.
especially since the pandemic. Music therapists are using video conferencing platforms to provide individual and group therapy sessions remotely. It's really expanding access to care for people who might not otherwise be able to get it.
Wow, that's incredible. It breaks down those geographical barriers, opens up a whole new world of possibilities. I even wrote a note here about how telehealth could be especially beneficial for people in rural communities
Yeah.
or people with mobility issues. It's like bringing the therapy right to them.
Exactly. And it aligns perfectly with your interest in making music therapy more accessible and inclusive. But beyond telehealth, technology is also playing a big role in developing new apps and software that can actually enhance music therapy sessions. We're seeing things like interactive music programs, biofeedback tools that track your physiological responses to music, even virtual reality experiences that create these immersive therapeutic environments.
Wait a minute. Virtual reality music therapy. That's next level. Tell me more.
Imagine being transported to a calming beach scene with the sound of waves crashing, gentle music playing, all while you're working on relaxation techniques with your therapist. Or for someone with motor challenges, they could use virtual reality to practice playing a virtual instrument to help regain hand coordination. The possibilities are really endless.
Okay, that's officially blown my mind. It's like science fiction meets therapy. I love it. What other trends are you seeing out there?
Research is another area that's really exploding right now. We're learning so much more about how music affects the brain and body, which is leading to more specialized treatments that target specific conditions and populations. For example, there's some groundbreaking research happening right now on using music therapy for people with Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, even traumatic brain injuries.
So as the research grows, so do the possibilities for how music therapy can help people. It's incredibly promising. Any final thoughts on these emerging trends?
One thing that really stands out to me is how music therapy is becoming more integrated into mainstream healthcare. We're seeing more and more music therapists working alongside doctors, nurses, other healthcare professionals.
Hmm.
It's a truly collaborative approach, recognizing the value of music as part of a holistic approach to well-being.
That's fantastic. It's no longer seen as this fringe therapy. It's a legitimate and valuable part of healthcare.
Yeah.
And it all ties back to what we were talking about earlier, about the importance of clinical knowledge, understanding the science behind music therapy.
Exactly. It's about bringing together all those different pillars, the musicality, the clinical expertise, the therapeutic skills,
Mm.
and the commitment to professional growth to create a truly powerful force for healing and transformation.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the four pillars of the profession
Huh.
to the education and training, the diverse career paths, the salary expectations, even the future trends. It's been an incredible journey.
It has, and I hope it's given our listener a really good understanding of what it takes to embark on this amazing career path.
I think so too. But even with all this knowledge, there's still one question that's kind of lingering in my mind.
Oh, what's that?
It's something I came across in that International Association for Music and Medicine section in the materials you sent. It mentioned how music therapy goes beyond just addressing symptoms. It can actually help people reconnect with themselves, rediscover their voice, and find a sense of joy and purpose even in the face of challenges. That's powerful stuff.
It really is. And it speaks to the heart of what makes music therapy so special. It's not just about healing the body or mind. It's about nurturing the human spirit.
Exactly. And that brings me to a final thought for our listener to ponder. Imagine a world where music isn't just entertainment, but a tool for healing growth and connection. What role do you want to play in making that world a reality?
That's such a powerful thought.
Yeah.
It's inspiring to think about the potential of music to really change people's lives in those deep ways.
Yeah.
And what's even more amazing is that it's not just some far-off dream, it's already happening.
Mm,
Music therapists are out there every day making those connections, helping people find healing and wholeness through music.
absolutely. And as we've talked about in this deep dive, it's definitely a journey that requires passion and dedication. You have
Yeah.
to be willing to commit to lifelong learning. But the rewards for those who are drawn to this path, they're just immeasurable. I totally agree. There was this one quote you underlined in one of the articles. It was from a music therapist who said, "The greatest gift of this profession is witnessing the power of music to awaken something deep within a person, something that words alone cannot reach."
Oh, wow. That's beautifully said. It really captures the essence of what makes music therapy so special. It's about going beyond just the symptoms and tapping into something deeper, the core of human experience.
Yeah, it's like music speaks a language that everyone understands. It goes beyond words and connects us on a totally different level. And I think that's a really powerful message for our listener.
It is, and I hope this deep dive has given them a sense of curiosity and maybe even inspired them to take action.
Me too.
Yeah.
We've explored so much, from the practical steps to the profound impact. But as we wrap up, I want to leave our listener with one final thought.
Okay.
Remember that note you wrote about finding your unique voice as a music therapist?
Yes, I do. I think that's so important for anyone who wants to get into this field. It's about discovering your passions and what really speaks to you, and then using that to create your own special approach to music therapy.
Exactly. And I think that applies to more than just music therapy. It's about life in general. Embracing what makes you unique and using your gifts to make a difference.
Couldn't agree more. It's about finding your rhythm, your harmony, and letting your own music shine.
Beautifully said. So to our listener out there, as you continue on this journey of exploring music therapy, remember to trust your instincts, nurture those passions, and never stop looking for those moments of connection and transformation that music can create. Who knows? Maybe someday you'll be the one sharing your story and inspiring others to follow this incredible path.
The world needs more music,
Hmm?
more healing, more connection. Go out there and make some beautiful music happen.